Hey, y'all, and welcome to the Currency of Visibility podcast. This is the show that teaches you how to turn your credibility into cash. I'm your host, Carolee Moore, founder of the Podcast Pitching Society, where we help experts who feel hidden get found, chosen, and paid using strategic storytelling on other people's podcasts. Each week, me and a few of my expert guests will give you proven strategies, tools, and the straight talk you need to grow visibility that actually pays you back. Let's get into it. Let's be real about what happened at the BAFTAs. I know everyone's focused on the Tourette's angle, and listen, I get it. Involuntary tics are real, but that's not what this is about for me. What this is about for me is the 2-hour broadcast delay and a room full of decision makers who watched the footage of a racial slur shouted at 2 Black actors in a room that was, for the first time in a long time, peppered with more Black and brown people than ever, and decided, we're good to air this. No one said, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. Not one person with enough power stopped it. Not one. And if you're out here building visibility as a Black and brown person or a woman in industries that are predominantly ran and powered by folks that don't look like you, we need to talk about what that means for your strategy, because visibility without protection isn't just uncomfortable, because I think we've heard that word being thrown around a lot, that it made people uncomfortable. It's not just about being uncomfortable. It's dangerous. Let's talk about it. First of all, I want to say, if you're watching this on video, I have taken notes because I don't want to miss anything, made the meticulous notes, and I want to make sure that I actually go through everything that I wrote down. So instead of coming at this with anger or whatever the case may be, I wanted to use whatever energy I had and put it into, how do we actually, in our everyday life, we're not all movie stars standing on stages at award shows. What does this actually have to do with us, and how can we use this as a lesson? So what are the lessons that we can learn for ourselves as experts in our own industry from what happened at the BAFTAs? First of all, let's talk about the D in DEI, right? DEI for the last, I would say, couple of years the concept of it has been demonized. And it's like now not even a dirty word, because it's not a word, right? It's a dirty acronym. Whenever it's said, now there's whether you're Black, white, or whatever, there's a charge behind that. But here's the part that I don't think people understand. Each of those letters means something in reality for not only organizations and corporations, but people. And that D, hey, you can come in, diversity, you can sit here. What we've learned from this situation, like in plain, no pun intended, Black and white, is that being in a room isn't the same as having power in that room. And that does affect your visibility strategy. I'll give you an example, because it's far left, but it's a good example. Someone gets an opportunity to be on national TV. Now, in literal sense, they're going to be put on national TV. There aren't a lot of people, especially, I would say 30, 40 years ago, you had very, very limited ways of getting on national TV. And so if you got an opportunity, more than likely you're going to take it. And I think anybody now, right, you get that opportunity, you'll take it. Here's the thing that is super important. Just because you are there, just because you're on TV, does not mean it's actually going to be good for you. Because you could be on national TV and be on Jerry Springer, Maury, right? Even the newer shows that are not as crazy, you still don't know how, even as you pitched whatever you pitched and they said yes, how that's going to go. They could literally blindside you. They could literally do whatever. And you don't have any power in that situation to do anything different. And what that says to me, and it should say to you, is be careful. Be careful where you actually allow yourself to be placed. Because just because you're being asked or you're being accepted into a space does not mean that you have power to, or even agency. When I say agency, that's power over your own self in that space. And if you don't have agency in a space, honey, anything can happen. And you've seen it with the rich and famous. In that moment, not powerful. The rich and famous, you're in a room with someone who has a disorder, who cannot help what comes out of his mouth. But not only that, it's one thing to be told to shut up, or you're stupid, or whatever the case is. When a word that has been used for centuries to denigrate and to subjugate an entire group of people, it no longer becomes about protecting this one person in the room because of their condition. Because here is the part that, again, we can put it into any other situation. If on camera, a person of color or a woman is denigrated, used as a prop, whatever you want to call it, right? She is not the only person experiencing that. That person of color is not the only person experiencing that. What happens is now you're traumatizing the entire flipping audience that also sees themselves in that person. And that's the criminality of it for me in this whole situation, is that they didn't think, all right, cool, you're fine with Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo being embarrassed on stage. You're even fine and cool with an audience filled with at least 50 to 60, I don't know, probably over 100 Black people in that room. But now you've broadcasted to millions of people. And you just did not. And it's because, again, though they were in the room, they weren't necessarily like, there was no belonging, right? Where it's about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now they have the belonging piece. There wasn't a sense that they belonged because there wasn't a care that was given to them. Matter of fact, let's put things on even footing here. It's my understanding that at several points throughout the show, they actually made announcements about this particular person, Mr. Davidson, and his condition, letting people know, hey, don't mind him. This is a part of his condition. You might hear some stuff come out of his mouth, like essentially protecting him, to say, hey, don't think about him in this negative way. He can't help what's happening. He has Tourette's, and a specific kind of Tourette's that, like, you know, whatever it is that they're trying not to say or what they think it would be most inappropriate is what comes out of their mouth. Understanding that, you twisted yourself into a pretzel multiple times throughout the night to make it clear to people that they should not feel a way about what is happening with him so that he can be cool, like, so he can stay there. And it wasn't until the incident happened and he left that it was like, okay, well, that escalated. And here's the stupid part to me. You edit out other things. You had hours and you edited out other things, and you chose to leave that piece in there. And so the other piece of that I want to really kind of push to the forefront as it relates to us now in our own life is, like, visibility isn't just about exposure. It's about how you're positioned after that exposure. Because now, instead of talking about the fact that Sinners won 3 BAFTAs, which is the most that any Black, quote unquote, predominantly Black feature film has ever won in the history of the BAFTA awards. Like, that should have been the headline. The fact that they won 3 awards. That's huge. History making. Really, really, really amazing that they won. And instead, we're talking about 2 of the stars of that movie getting embarrassed on national TV, not because it was live and they couldn't control it, but because whoever was in charge, the entire team that was producing this, thought nothing of leaving that into the broadcast. My 2 cents, they were okay with the embarrassment of those 2 actors for the controversy that it would actually bring, because they believed that it would bring more eyes to the show. You can't tell me that's not what it is. You can't tell me that they weren't courting controversy, because their first apology had nothing to say about Delroy Lindo or Michael B. Jordan. They didn't apologize to them. They didn't even acknowledge the embarrassment or any effect that it could have had on them in the room of other Black actors and film folk. Didn't even mention them. It was clinical. It was like, well, we didn't take it out. Apologies. What? So, at this point, there is an asterisk. Even as they went there and they were in the room and they even won, there is now a bitter, weird taste from that experience. It no longer feels like a win because it's tainted. And a huge part of that is because they couldn't control what happened beyond their just being there. It's really important to be mindful about the spaces that you allow yourself to be in. And this is why point 3 or sub point of the first point, this is why you need to build visibility in spaces where you have allies with actual power. And if not allies, people that care about what happens to you, either because they see themselves in you. And again, that doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that they are also women or also a person of color or whatever. It just means that they see you fully and acknowledge your humanity and acknowledge what you deserve and how you deserve to be treated, right? And a huge part of being in that space is making sure that you're looking for those people. When you get the visibility, ensuring that you are clear as to what it is and is not going to go down, and asking for the things that you need to ensure that you feel fully safe and comfortable. And if you don't feel fully safe and comfortable, being okay to just walk away, like let it be okay to just not be a thing. And that takes me to my second larger point. I told y'all whenever I laugh, I want to say something super blunt, but I'm going to put like a little sugar on it so it doesn't, sting as much. There are a lot of people who are just happy to be in the room. And I want to encourage you as a listener to this podcast, don't be one of them people. Because typically when you're a person who's just happy to be in the room, what's going to happen? You're going to be threatened when someone else comes in the room, because now you feel as though their presence, right? If another woman comes in and you've been the only woman and you've just enjoyed being in the room, instead of you opening the door and allowing or even fighting for and pushing like the thing wide open so other people who look like you, who have your gender, all the things, can also experience what you're experiencing. Instead of doing that, you're going to be a block because you're just happy to be there and you believe that your presence is power, and it's not. Let me explain. Presence is important because without presence, you can't have the other steps that come along with it. However, your job, and again, this is only for the folks that actually want to shake some stuff up. If you're okay with just going along to get along, cool. If you're trying to be a thought leader, this is for you. Okay? You get into those rooms and your responsibility is to change the genetic makeup of that room. It should not be the same after you leave, period. Whether that's a podcast interview or a job or whatever, nothing should be the same after you leave, because you've come up in there and have them realize. There was a study years ago, and this is actually how DEI became acceptable. I think it was McKinsey that did the study, and maybe I'm wrong. I'll let y'all know. Basically found that corporate teams that had diversity, whether it was diversity in age, gender, race, experience, geographic, so people that were from other countries outside of the US, teams that just were not homogeneous, actually outperformed their homogeneous counterparts. And so teams that have various different types of people have shown statistically to outperform teams where everybody is thinking the same, look the same, is same gender, all the things. And yet we're still trying to figure out somehow how to prove that wrong. I don't know. But because that is the case, I want you to know that as you're going into these spaces that might be predominantly white, might be predominantly male, you're not going in there asking for please, sir, can I have some? You're going in there saying, hey, you need me. Your stuff is super vanilla. And I'm not just talking because there's a whole bunch of white people, just vanilla boring. You need a little bit of extra cayenne in that, maybe some paprika. You need something to spice it up a little bit. And I'm not here to operate business as usual. I'm not here to somehow become less female and less feminine and become one of the guys. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to show you that my perspective actually makes this team better. My perspective actually makes your platform better. Me coming on when all of your audience is essentially, hearing the same kind of messages all the time. I come on and I give you a different perspective. One, it's going to be a bunch of people who is like, I hate her. What is she doing? She's stupid. Whatever. That's engagement for you, period. But then there's going to be folks that their brains start to be like, well, thanks. She kind of makes sense. I've never thought about things that way before. Wow. Am I this way? Well, I don't want to be that way. How do I? And because you come in as yourself, not trying to conform, not just trying to be there, you shift the entire atmosphere. And you make it so that the next person that comes in does not have to start from scratch as well. You see this in a lot of like sports. I would say Serena Williams is one of my favorite examples because she came in, her and her sister Venus as well, came in wearing beads. I mean, a lot of beads. This is the pictures of the white beads that they had in their hair. And at the time, and still to this day, tennis is a very specific aesthetic. And even, Black women who've been trying to play, gel it up and try to do all the things to make it look. And they said, nah, we're good. I'm going to play swinging the beat, honey. And I'll beat you badly, right? And then it was the grunting. And everyone's like, oh my God, she sounds like an ape. She sounds like a monkey. Still did it. Then it was the dancing, crip walking, Serena was just herself. And then now you have Coco, you have all these other people who've come through, Black women specifically, who are just like unapologetically who they are. Personality has entered the chat. And the irony of it is, it's not just Black women now that you're seeing kind of come in and show their personality a little bit more. It's not just like boring, whatever, we're just going to flick our hair back and that's going to be it. You're seeing more. The entire sport changed, all because one woman dared to just not be happy to be there. She was like, I'm going to be here and I'm going to kick this door down and I'm going to be my full self. And you're going to accept it because why? I'm going to work my butt off to be great. Was it easy? I'm sure it was not. I'm sure it was not. And the amount of hate that woman got. And so I get it. I understand why people don't want to go that route. I get it. But greatness, extraordinary. If you are wanting to be considered a thought leader, and I say this many times in my content, whether it's on my lives or reels or whatever, a leader is the one that's out front taking all the bullets. They're going to be the ones getting the brunt of all of the criticism. If you're not willing to do that, don't be a leader. Don't call yourself a leader. And that's okay. Not everyone's built for it. It is not for the weak. It is not even for the timid. It is not for the person who's trying to be safe at all times, because you're going into these places that are they're not safe. And as much as we see, even an award show should feel safe. But as we've seen, whether it's somebody getting, the taste slapped out of their mouths or being, accosted by a really racially tinged or racist tinged word, it's not really safe. And you're going to have to kind of do your due diligence as you're building your visibility portfolio, whether that is in TV or podcasts or even on other social channels with larger platforms, etc. Make sure that when you get there, you are one, setting the standard. This is how I expect to be treated. This is how I want things to go down. Before stuff airs, I would love for me to get some level of, like, whatever it is that you feel like you need in order for you to feel comfortable, do that. And if they say no, right, there's certain things that you either sign your rights away and say, like, okay, whatever you want to put out, or because there's a lot of contracts. This is the other piece of it too. Let's talk about that for a second, okay? Because for these larger shows, there are agreements. We don't have a super large show, but there's an agreement because I want to make sure that we're both comfortable, right? I want to make sure that hey, if anything goes crazy on this, you have a right to say, I don't want this to air. And I also have a right that whatever you say in it, right, I'm going to use it. So if you lie, I'm not the one getting in trouble, right? And those are the things that we've done to protect ourselves, even as a small show. But these larger shows, they will ask you to sign agreements. Read them joints. Read it thoroughly. Maybe even if you don't have the money to pay an attorney to review it, use ChatGPT to review the agreement and ask for, hey, is this covering da, 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 da? That's it. And once you're really clear, then you can make the decision to sign. Or ask them, hey, I don't really this particular part where it says that you can actually turn my stuff into paid products for your business, I'm not with that. Take that out. Thank you. Right? True story. You just have to make sure that you are protecting yourself for whatever platform you're on, whatever you're doing, to make sure that the visibility, like you getting more eyeballs on what you're doing and who you are, is not actually coming at a cost in terms of whether it's embarrassment, like what happened at the BAFTAs, or worse, right? There's so much to kind of unpack there. And this is why your thought leadership actually needs to include the calling out of systemic gaps, not just offering little tactical advice, 5 ways to do this, 3 mistakes you're doing here, whatever. Like, that's all cute and that's great. But when we're thinking about thought leadership, it's saying the quiet parts out loud sometimes, or a lot of times. It's saying the things that other people are thinking, but they're scared to say out loud. Those are the folks that, again, they're going to be on the front lines, kind of representing an entire group of people, and they're willing to say things out loud, but not to harm others, but simply to be clear as like, this is where I stand. And I have proof as to why this particular perspective is not only the right way, but like, frankly, is the only way. Like, that's the way that you stand on business in that. And that is, in my opinion, the only way that when you go on platforms that are not built for you, that you're able to not only stand out, right, but leverage it for more than just being present in that place. You are not going into a place just being happy to be there. Like, oh my God, thank you so much for having me. It's more of, thank you for the opportunity to speak to your audience, to completely transform what they got going on, right? You need me as much as I need you. Let's be real. Okay. And if you think of it that way, if you think of what your presence brings from a place of power and not from a place of privilege, in the sense of it's a privilege to be in the space, you belong everywhere you are. And so it's not really a privilege to be in wherever you're at, because you belong there. No one's no one's doing you any favors and putting you in the rooms that you get into. If you get into a room, you belong there. That is one of the things that my mentor, Jessie Mermel, when I was living in Boston, that's one of the things that she said to me that has stuck with me for years. It's been well over 6 years that she's told me that, and it has stuck with me. And every single time I'm about to go into a space that feels bigger than me, or I'm going to go on stage in front of hundreds of people, I remind myself, whatever you did before that got you here is the price of admission. You are now in a space that you belong in. You're no longer proving anything to anyone. You are there. And that, in and of itself, the fact that you are there, is proof that you belong there. So, for me, this entire BAFTA situation was eye-opening and a reminder as to why there is still an NAACP Image Awards. There is still a BET Awards. There is still a Essence Women in Hollywood brunch, or whatever it is, like celebration. Those spaces matter because in a lot of ways, especially in that industry, so just a lot of spaces that are not safe. And we see it pop up every so often. And I know that whatever industry you're in, you have felt, or you have experienced, you have seen instances like this before. This is not, a unique situation or one that is only for Hollywood. But we can either sit and complain about it, or we can, one, create and build our own spaces where we don't have to worry about our emotional, mental, and physical safety, right? Or we can make it clear when we do get into those spaces what is required. I saw that one of their, someone that was on, I guess, one of their boards or committees or whatever, stepped down because, like, I can't represent an organization that would willfully cause emotional and mental harm to people, like, on purpose, because you had the opportunity to take it out and you didn't, right? To me, that's standing on business. To me, that's someone who looked in the mirror and said, integrity wise, I can't continue to support both with my time, my talents, and my money an organization that clearly on the leadership front lacks a lot of different things. Because it's not just that they allowed it to happen, it's that their initial response was not an immediate full throat, hey, this was not only our bad, but we vehemently, like, we're so apologetic to Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan and everyone that was present, everyone who was watching. Like, be very clear that you understand the harm that those actions, led to, and they didn't. They didn't, because in a lot of ways, I don't know that the folks that let it run understood how deep that. And I don't know how you wouldn't, because you had enough time to take out parts of acceptance speeches that talked about free Palestine. You took that out. Why not take out other, according to you, inflammatory things? Why take that piece out and not the N-word? Like, make it make sense, because it really doesn't. Anyway, I told y'all I went rant, so that's enough of that. Hopefully from this episode, you also, one, felt encouraged to go into spaces and own them, and understand that you have a responsibility while you're in those spaces to leave that door open so others can come in, so that space will never be the same. Your opportunity is not just for you. And so therefore, when you speak from a place of responsibility. And no, it's not fair. I understand that you shouldn't have to speak for every Black person, every woman ever. Represent, you just want to represent yourself and do it. That's not the world we live in. So as a leadership trainer once said to a room full of future leaders while I was going through a 1-year program, she's an Asian woman. She said, you can either use the reality of the slights, the reality of the microaggressions, the reality of straight out racist things, the reality of corporate America at the time. You can use that and have it either be the thing that beats you down or the thing that you use as fuel. Because once you recognize that your ability to walk into a room and immediately, like within 30 seconds, you've already scoped out who's safe. You've already scoped out whose energy is like, not doing that. Your discernment is so high because it's had to be. Your level of emotional intelligence is so high because it had to be. These are the things that come from having to protect yourself, having to kind of be your own savior in those spaces at times. But those are superpowers. Those are the things that someone who is so aloof, because they have the privilege of being aloof in these areas, in these spaces, don't see things the same way that you do. And so you're able to catch patterns. You're able to see and solve problems in nuanced ways that other folk just are not able to. And to rob a room of that because you are still sitting there either feeling timid or just happy as a clam just to be there. To rob a room of that is criminal. It really is. And so I hope that you are encouraged by this to speak with power and understand that you have a responsibility. As unfair as it might feel at times, it is a privilege and it is a superpower, and you are amazing, and what you have to say matters, and how you show up matters. And it doesn't matter that situations like these keep coming up, because all it does is, again, you can either use it as fuel or you can allow it to beat you down to where you just stay down. And I refuse. I don't know about you. I refuse. Not a day. So, as always, homework for this week, I want you to think about what your story is that you're telling yourself when you're in those rooms, right? As you're pitching and going on larger shows or getting opportunities for TV or anything like that. What's the story that you keep repeating in your head that might need to change about who you need to be when you are in those spaces? Think about that, write about that, reflect on that. And as always, drop a note in our community, the Currency of Visibility Collective on School. It's a free community. It's in the show notes. Would love to see you there. Love to hear from you. And I'll see you next time.